My name is Olivia Hayes, and sometimes I wonder if my parents even realize how much silence can hurt more than words. The ocean stretched endlessly outside the glass wall of my suite, its waves glittering under the setting sun like spilled diamonds. I leaned against the balcony rail, my silk blouse brushing against my skin in the evening breeze, and tried to breathe in the salty calm. This cruise was supposed to feel like a gift, a way to bridge years of distance, to remind my parents and myself that maybe we could start over. I bought the tickets months ago. Quietly. No announcements, no explanations. Just 2 first-class staterooms, handed to them with a smile that I had practiced in the mirror, the kind of smile that hides more than it shows. But the truth? I wanted time. Time they had never given me when it mattered most. Time they had reserved for their friends, their business trips, their carefully curated social life. Never for me. The phone on the dresser buzzed, breaking the stillness. A text from my mother. Dinner at 8. Wear something elegant. Dad wants to talk. My chest tightened. Dad wants to talk. Funny how that phrase still made me feel like a child waiting outside the principal's office. After all these years, after all the walls I had built, one line from them still cracked something inside me. And standing there, on the balcony of a cruise I had paid for, I realized this trip wasn't about reconciliation. It was about reckoning. It's strange how memory works. One word, one tone of voice, and suddenly I was 17 again, standing in the Hayes family kitchen, clutching a crumpled college acceptance letter in my trembling hands. Olivia, my father's voice had been sharp, impatient. We've talked about this. Writing isn't a career. It's a hobby. You'll never make a living scribbling in journals. I remember the lump forming in my throat, so heavy I could barely swallow. The letter shook between my fingers, my knuckles white against the page. It was from university I had dreamed of. Their creative writing program had accepted me with a partial scholarship. For me, it felt like light after years of being invisible. For him, it was irrelevant. My mother didn't look up from polishing the silverware. She rarely did when things grew tense. Her silence was her loyalty to him and her betrayal of me. I can work part-time. I'll cover the rest, I had whispered, my voice breaking. I just want to try. His laugh was cold, dismissive. You think stories will pay your rent? You'll thank me later, when you're not starving in some city. The sting of those words burned deeper than I admitted at the time. And when I dropped the acceptance letter onto the kitchen counter, it felt like dropping a part of myself. That night, I sat in my room with tears soaking my pillow. My grandmother's old leather journal, cracked spine, worn pages, lay on my desk. She had given it to me when I was 12, whispering, "Write your truth here, even if the world refuses to hear it." I opened it, my hands trembling, and wrote in shaky ink, "One day, I will build a life they can't dismiss." It was the first promise I ever made to myself. The next morning, without telling them, I applied for jobs in the city. I didn't have money. I didn't have their blessing, but I had determination, and a journal filled with words they could never silence. That was the night Olivia Hayes stopped waiting for her parents to see her and started seeing herself. The city didn't welcome me with open arms. It swallowed me whole. I moved into a studio apartment that was barely bigger than the Hayes family pantry. The paint peeled from the walls, the radiator clanked like it had arthritis, and the single window overlooked a brick alley that smelled of fried oil and damp laundry. But to me, it was freedom. By day, I worked as a receptionist at a publishing house. By night, I pored over manuscripts no one wanted to read, learning what made a story live or die. My meals were instant noodles and dollar coffee, my wardrobe stitched together from thrift store finds. But the journal from my grandmother stayed on my nightstand, its pages filling with drafts, doubts, and small victories. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, convinced my father had been right, that I'd never make it, that I was just another dreamer waiting tables and typing into the void. But then came Margaret. Margaret Lane was the senior editor at the firm, sharp-eyed, steel-haired, with a laugh like a cracked bell. She noticed me one late evening, hunched over slush-pile manuscripts while everyone else had gone home. You read for pleasure? She asked, dropping her leather bag onto the desk beside me. For survival, I'd blurted out before I could stop myself. She had studied me for a long, uncomfortable moment and then smiled. Good. That means you care. Margaret became my mentor in ways I didn't know I needed. She taught me how to edit with precision, how to pitch with confidence, and how to take rejection like a professional, not a personal wound. She also taught me how to walk into a boardroom full of men twice my age and twice as loud and not flinch. The wins came slowly at first. My first edited book landed a small but loyal readership. The second turned into a midless success. By the third, I was negotiating contracts with authors who trusted me more than the executives they signed with. One night, Margaret looked at me across a cluttered table stacked with drafts and said, "You know, Olivia, you could run your own imprint someday. You've got the fire." Her words lodged in me like a seed. And when she retired 2 years later, she handed me her Rolodex and whispered, "Now go build it." I did. Piece by piece, I carved out my own company. Hayes Literary Agency started in a co-working space with flickering lights and secondhand chairs, but soon enough, it became something real. Authors who had been rejected everywhere else found a home with me. Their books weren't just published, they thrived. Within 5 years, I was no longer the receptionist making coffee runs. I was Olivia Hayes, founder and CEO, negotiating six-figure deals, shaping voices that would echo far beyond the pages. And yet, I never told my parents. To them, I was still the dutiful daughter who called on holidays with vague updates. Work is fine, just busy. Yes, I'm eating well. No, nothing exciting to share. I let them believe I was ordinary, that I had chosen safety, because part of me wanted the reveal to mean something. Part of me wanted them to finally see me, not as their daughter chasing fantasies, but as a woman who had built her own empire from the ashes of their doubt. The dining room of the cruise ship glittered like a ballroom dipped in gold. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, violins hummed somewhere in the background, and waiters in crisp white jackets floated between tables carrying silver trays. I walked toward the reserved table, heels clicking against marble, my satin dress brushing just above my ankles. My parents were already seated. My mother looked elegant as always, pearls perfectly aligned, lipstick the exact shade of coral she had worn my entire childhood. My father sat stiffly in his chair, scanning the wine list like it was a business contract. When his eyes lifted and landed on me, something flickered across his face, surprise, maybe, though quickly masked by his usual critical squint. "You're late," he said. I smiled, lowering myself into the chair opposite them. Fashionably. For a while, conversation was small and brittle, like glassware on the edge of breaking. The weather. The food. A passing remark about how expensive cruises must be. Finally, my father leaned back, studying me. "So, Olivia, your mother and I were wondering," his tone was heavy with assumption. "How are you managing? Still at that assistant job? Must be difficult in a city like New York." I folded my napkin slowly, deliberately, before setting it on the table. My pulse thudded in my ears. This was it. "No, Dad," I said softly. "I haven't been an assistant in a very long time." He frowned. My mother tilted her head. "Then what do you do, dear?" The waiter arrived, pouring wine. I let the silence stretch until he left. Then I met their eyes, steady and calm. "I own a literary agency. Hayes Literary. We represent more than 40 authors. Last year, our combined titles sold over 2 million copies." Their expressions froze. My father blinked. "You own it?" "Yes," I said, my voice firm now. "I built it from the ground up. Contracts, deals, international rights, all of it. My name is on every agreement. My team runs one of the fastest-growing agencies in the industry." For the first time in my life, my father didn't have words ready. He stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. My mother's fork clinked against her plate, her hand trembling. "You're joking," she whispered. I shook my head. "I'm not. I didn't tell you, because I wanted this moment. I wanted you to see what you dismissed, what you laughed at." Silence pressed down on the table, heavier than any lecture I'd ever endured. My father finally cleared his throat, but his voice cracked. 2 million copies. He looked at my mother, then back at me. How did you? With no help from you, I said, not cruelly, but with the honesty I had carried for years. With nights alone in a city you said would swallow me. With ramen noodles and rejection letters and mentors who believed when you didn't. I did it, Dad. Without your approval, without your blessing. Their eyes darted around the dining room, suddenly aware of the luxury they were seated in, the suite, the cruise, the champagne chilled in silver buckets, all of it paid for by the daughter they once told would never make it. I wanted this trip, I continued, my voice steady, not because I need your love, but because I needed you to see me as I am.
Not the child you dismissed.
The woman I became. My mother's eyes glistened with tears. She quickly blinked away. My father sat rigid, jaw clenched, but his silence said more than his pride ever could. And for the first time, it wasn't me who felt small at the table.
It was them.
The silence between us stretched, fragile as spun glass. For once, my father wasn't the one commanding the room. For once, my mother wasn't the one smoothing it all over with polite half-smiles. It was me. I let the pause linger, sipping my wine, savoring the moment like a secret I had carried too long. Finally, my father spoke, his voice low. So, why bring us here? To humiliate us. I set the glass down, folding my hands neatly on the table.
No.
I brought you here to offer something you never offered me. A chance. My mother frowned. A chance. Yes, I said softly. A chance to rebuild. But it comes with conditions. Their eyes widened, confusion flickering into unease. I leaned forward, my tone calm but unshakable. Dad, I began, you've lived your whole life believing strength is control. That love is discipline. But if you want to stay in mine, you have to let go of that ego. You have to listen, really listen, without turning every word into a debate you need to win. That's condition number 1. His jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. For once, he knew I wasn't bluffing. I turned to my mother. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles pale. And you, Mom. You've hidden behind silence for too long. I needed your voice when I was young. I needed you to stand up, even once. But you never did. If you want to be part of my life now, you have to find that voice. Not for me, but for yourself. That's condition number 2. Tears welled in her eyes, slipping free despite her attempt to blink them away. She nodded slightly, as though she had been waiting years for permission to break the shell she'd been trapped in. I leaned back, exhaling. And the third condition is simple. Both of you need to see me for who I am. Not the scared girl begging for approval, not the dreamer you thought would fail. I'm Olivia Hayes, a woman who built something lasting, something powerful. If you can't respect that, then we part ways here. This cruise becomes a goodbye gift, not a reunion. The words hung heavy in the air, sharper than any knife. My father's face flushed, then softened. He opened his mouth to argue. I saw the reflex, the instinct, but no words came. Instead, he lowered his gaze to the tablecloth, his shoulders sagging in a way I had never seen before. My mother reached for my hand across the table. Her fingers trembled. Olivia, she whispered, her voice cracking. I don't know if I can undo all the years of silence, but I want to try. For the first time, I didn't feel like the child at their mercy. I felt like the woman I had promised myself I would become, the one holding the pen, the one writing the story. This isn't punishment, I said gently. This is choice. You either step into my life on these terms, or you watch from the sidelines as I keep moving forward. And in that moment I knew. The power had shifted. The little girl with the acceptance letter had grown into the author of her own future. The rest was up to them. The last night of the cruise was quiet. No gala dinners, no speeches, no performances, just the hum of the ocean and the moonlight shimmering across the waves. I stood alone on the deck, the wind tugging gently at my hair, a leather journal cradled in my hands. My grandmother's journal, the one she had pressed into mine when I was 12, her voice soft but certain. Write your truth, even if the world refuses to hear it. I opened it, flipping past the pages filled with teenage scrawls, angry tears, promises written in shaky ink. And then, there it was, the line I had written the night my parents crushed my college dream. One day, I will build a life they can't dismiss. A laugh bubbled in my throat, half joy, half ache, because I had done it. And tonight, for the first time, I felt the weight of that promise lift. Behind me, I heard footsteps. My parents. They came slowly, hesitantly. Not the commanding presence they used to be, but two people who looked smaller, more human. My mother's hand brushed my arm. "Olivia," she whispered, "I don't know how to fix the past, but I'm willing to start." My father, always so rigid, finally spoke, his voice rough. "You were right. You didn't need us. But maybe we need you." I turned to face them. There were no fireworks, no grand apologies. Just a fragile thread of honesty stretching between us. And for now, that was enough. I closed the journal, tucking it against my chest. "I'll give you the chance," I said quietly, "but only if you walk forward, not backward." I refused to live in the shadow of what was. They both nodded, a silent agreement carried away by the ocean breeze. Later, as I leaned over the railing one last time, watching the ship cut through silver water, I thought about that 17-year-old girl crying into her pillow, clutching a dream no one else believed in. She would have never imagined this, the freedom, the success, the strength to look her parents in the eye and set her own terms. And in that moment, I whispered to her, to myself, to the sea itself. I bought those tickets not to buy their love, but to remind myself that I never needed it to sail forward.